And welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. You can visit our website on https://scholar.online. You will find more courses on what we teach right here on this YouTube channel and much more. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so that you'll be notified every time we have new content. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're going to expand a little bit on what we've been doing on our invoicing website. I'm really excited to finally launch this website. And if you've seen our video from Wednesday, you can already access this website. It's available online. If you go to freeinvoice.co.za, you can go there and create an account and immediately get started with our free invoicing software, okay? But today's video, we're going to expand a little bit on what we've done by including analytics, okay? Analytics is very crucial when it comes to preparing, like software as a service, SaaS type websites, and especially our invoicing website. What we have so far is just a display of the current invoices that you've got on the system. You've got 5 paid invoices, 5 overdue invoices over the last year. But what I really want to be able to do here is to have something that looks like this, okay? So this is a graph analytics, which is a visualization. It gives you a visualization of the data that you already have. And I can assure you that a good 90% of web applications today, if you're going to be building a SaaS product, you're going to have some sort of analytics, okay? So in today's video, I'm going to show you very quickly how to do a graph like this one, okay? So this graph shows over the last 3 months. So we are now in October. So over the last 3 months, October, September, August, and the year to date, the number of invoices that this client has on the system. So it shows them, okay, year to date, they have a total of 9 invoices, and 4 of them are paid, and 3 of them are overdue. And in August, they had just 1, and in September they had 2. This is very useful for clients to be able to see, are they improving, are they not improving over time? Are they getting more invoices? Are they getting less invoices? And this is useful for this type of a web application. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this plot. And once you learn how to do this type of bar plot, you can do any other. You can build on what I'm going to teach you and build any kind of plot, because the basics are going to be exactly the same. And what we're going to be using for this plot is Apexcharts. Apexcharts, you can access it by going to any Google and just search for Apexcharts, like that, APEX, okay? And the first one that comes up is probably the right one, okay? Apexcharts.js. This is a JavaScript library, okay? So we're gonna combine this JavaScript library with our Django application to be able to produce Apexcharts. And what did I use Apexcharts? Well, there's at least 5 different open source charting applications that you can use. Libraries that you can use. And obviously, for me, Apexcharts is just a preference, okay? You can use any one. For what I'm going to teach you here today, you can use any of the available chart.js, whatever. It's the same principle at the end of the day. I'm going to just show you this one because it's the one that I love. I love the colors. I love how easy it is to work with, and I'm going to show you. So if you go to their website, apexcharts.com, you can see over here example of charts that they've got. And I really love their documentation, and they even have specialized sort of integrations with different apps, and I think some of these are not quite free. I'm not sure. But what I'm going to show you is just using the basic JavaScript library, where we're going to be plotting the chart from the front end, sending data from the back end to the front end, and just plotting it. And you can do that for free, okay? So when you get onto the website, start by, first of all, clicking on the download button. Okay, so I'm going to click that just to show you what happens. When you click it, it's going to download for you a document, a zip file, which has a lot of information in there, including demos. If you want to see how the demos work, they are also included in the download file. Okay, so if you go to explore demos over here, you can see all the types of charts that they've got available, all right? So they've got radar, pie charts, radial bar. They've got lots and lots of charts over here. And we're just gonna go for I think we're doing a bar chart. All right, I think we're doing a bar chart, and it's a basic column chart. I think that's the one that we're doing. All right, so let me just show you this one. All right, so we are doing this sort of basic column chart, which we know would have like an x-axis and a y-axis, and on the y-axis is basically what you are charting against whatever it is that you're doing on the x-axis. Typically, it can be a time series, or like like dates, or it could really be anything. It could be individuals, people. It doesn't really matter, but you would need to have like a common element between all the y-axes. So in this specific case, like what we're doing here, our x-axis is obviously the time, and then we want to plot it against the number of invoices. So we want to know in August, for example, how many invoices did we have? In September, how many invoices we have? So the y-axis would have a common x-axis, and then you can be able to plot them in the same graph. So this is basically the graph that we're plotting. All right, but you can see all the different types of plots that you can go for, and you can try them all. All right, once you figured out the what you're plotting over here, you'll see they've got like sort of like an example code. All right, so this example code is the one that we're going to work with. All right, if you just copy it like that, all right, you can copy it like that, and then you can go into your HTML page, and then we're going to paste it, and that's what we're going to work with. All right, so I'm not going to copy it for now because I'm going to make some changes, and I don't want to type everything in front of you to waste your time, but basically that's what you would do. So let's say, let me like just paste this for you here quickly and explain to you what's happening over there. All right, so if you paste this here, you will see the way this works. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is that you need to import your JavaScript library for Apexcharts. Okay, this is very, very important. So this is what you would have downloaded over here. So if we go and try and look for our downloads, okay, if I go to my a download folder, all right, at the what I just downloaded now is this a bundle. If you open this, okay, so let's like open it completely. If you open here, you'll see it's got samples, and then it's got this dist library. Okay, so what you're looking for is inside of this dist folder. You want, for example, your Apexcharts min. I think the min.js is sufficient, but I don't know, I use like the main one because I'm not worried about loading time. Okay, so if you just take this JS file, what it is over there, and you take the CSS file as well. You need the CSS and the JS, so you just need basically these two files. This is all you need. So you can then close this completely. All right, and then what you do, you take the CSS file and you put it inside of your folder. So in our case, this is our Django app, and in our Django app, we've got our static folder. All right, so this is a static folder, and then inside of the static folder, we have different sort of libraries, and so you're gonna pick the one you work with, and then you're just gonna save it in there. So if I go to my documentation, right, not documents, if I go to where my folder is, and this is the one, and I go into the static folder. So this is a static folder, and I open the assets, is where I'm gonna save all of my assets. You've got your CSS folder in there, and then you've got your JavaScript folder in there. You basically put this JavaScript file inside of the JavaScript folder, and you put the CSS file inside of the CSS folder. That's all you need to do, and then inside of your template, you'll refer to them because you need this for everything to work properly. Okay, so I'll give you, you can pause this over here and go and add this into your JavaScript, into your CSS folders, because you need that to be able to continue. Now, once you've added it inside of your HTML, you will then refer to it the Django way. You'll say inside of your static folder, you will refer to the min.js. Okay, in my case, I've got them both. You don't really need them both. You need one or the other. So so you need either the min or you need the Apexcharts.js inside of your statics.js folder. And at the top, you're going to do the same with the CSS. So you're going to download also the CSS into your HTML so that your HTML can work properly. So basically, that's all you do over there. Then your chart is ready to go. All right. So over here, you see there's like three different variables that are being plotted here. these are the three different variables. So you've got the revenue, you've got the net profit, and then you've got the free cash flow. All right, there you go. You've got the revenue, the net profit, and the free cash flow. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different series data points, which is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different series data points. Okay, so in this specific case, they have 9 data points, and then these are the numbers that they must plot. All right, from the profit, the revenue, and the free cash flow. Okay, and then so this is the data that goes into the y-axis. All right, and then the thousands they've named it over here. So this is like dollars. This is thousands of dollars. You're gonna label the y-axis. All right, and then in the x-axis you're gonna give it what must go into the x-axis. So you see it's like from February, March, April, May, June, July. That's what it is over here: February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and October. Okay, so basically this is what you need for plotting this, and you can just you can see I've completely copied and pasted it directly from the Apexcharts website. So they really got good documentation to guide you how to plot your graph. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video is show you, because as you can see over here, this data is hard-coded into the plot. So if I plotted this right now, it will plot this exact graph for me, right? But that's not what I want, okay? That's not what I want, because what I want to plot is this. I want to plot what we've got here, which is actual invoice coming from our database. And what I also want is that I want this to plot dynamically, So if somebody else logs in, it must plot their invoices. And if now it's we're in the month of October, it must show October. And if we move from October to November, it must show November data. If we move from 2021 to 2022, it must show 2022 data. So it must plot this data dynamically based on who is the person that has the invoices right now, and also at what point do they log into the system. Okay, so this is very, very important that you code this properly in the Django way, so that you can push the data from the Django back end to the Django front end to plot it like this. Okay, so let's get started plotting this graph. Okay, there's a couple of things that you need to do to get started. All right, so I'm going to delete this script over here because we don't need this. This was just an example to show you. All right, so I'm going to remove this completely. And just make sure you have imported the things that you need to import over there. And then we're going to go to our view function, and then we're going to start collecting the data that is going to come in here to be plotted. Okay, so the first thing that we need to determine is obviously the time. Okay, so we need to determine the time so that this thing can plot the correct X series. All right, so I'm only going to have 4 points. I'm going to have 3 months from today's date. I'm going to plot 3 months in history. Okay, and then I'll have one that shows the total of everything up to year to date. Okay, so I think that's important. If you're watching, you're checking your invoices and you can see what's been happening in the last 3 months, that should be sufficient. Maybe over time we can expand it and make it 6 months. I don't know. It's up to you. Some people might even make it the whole year, but because this is a new application, I don't think there's anybody that's got data for the whole year. Maybe over time we might do this for the whole year, so that we'll have the average for the year, and then we'll have all the months from October to November last year, where it will be plotting month to month the invoices for the last year, and then you'll have the total. But you would use the same principle I'm going to show you to do what I'm going to explain to you now. Okay, the first thing is obviously you need to determine the date today. We want to know today's date because we're going to work from, everything is going to work from today's date going backwards. Okay, and how we're going to determine today's date is that we're going to use a time zone dot local time. This is very, very important because in Python, normally a lot of people are used to using date time. Okay, so they would say datetime dot now. Okay, this pretty much does the same thing as that, except this is time zone away and this is not time zone away. So now inside of our Django application, we designed it from the beginning to be time zone away, which means that we want to build a global app, and if somebody wants to use our app and they're based on the other side of the world, and they want to figure out what's the time right now, and they use datetime now, it would give them the wrong time. okay, because their time zone will be different from my time zone who's designing the app, or the server time zone. So this, I think, would work based on the server time zone. So what we need to be doing is we need to be showing people their time based on their time zone. That's why we use time zone aware. And for this to work properly, you need to make sure that inside of your settings.py file, if you go into your settings.py, let me just look for it. If you go into your settings.py file, you need to make sure that you have selected the current time zone of the server where you are right now. Okay, but you need to also make use time zone to be true, which means that when you now use this function over here, it will be the time zone that it stores in the database will be time zone aware. And I can show you how this works quickly. I do have a couple of minutes. Today's tutorial is not going to be so long. So let's say we do python manage.py shell. Okay, this opens a Django shell, which is different from just opening a Python shell. So you can then work with the Django, within the Django sort of what we call it, context and environment. Now I need to now download this time zone. All right, and then I'm gonna import date time. Okay, just want to show you something. If I now say today, right, is equals to date time dot now. Let's test that, and I say today. You'll see it gives you a datetime object, and right now where I am, this is the time. Okay, but if I say time zone today, all right, and I use this function that I was using over here. I don't remember it off by heart, so I need to copy and paste it. All right, and I use a time zone, local time zone now, right? And then I say tx today, right? If you look at that, you'll see this is different from that. Okay, they are both datetime objects, but this one has got tz info. It's got the time zone info. Okay, so my current time zone right now is Africa, Johannesburg, and this is the time. Okay, so this means that if somebody looked at this time from a different time zone, and I display this time to them on the same app, and you were logging in from, I don't know, the US, and you looked at that time, you would see the time on your time zone, right? So this is very, very important to build apps that are time zone aware. And you'll see, if you're following our tutorials, we always do this, and this is why we do that. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that today over there, and I'm going to leave that. Okay, so after I've done that, I'm going to then determine what was the time 30 days from today, 60 days from today, 365 days from today. 30 days from today is obviously the beginning of last month, all right, assuming a month is 30 days long. So this will then give me all the data that goes from today to 1 month ago, which is going to be for me the October data. Then the next one is history 2 is 60 days later. All right, so 60 days later is from where we are today, 60 days later, which will give me that and that 60 days from today. And then the last one is 365. All right, so sorry, the last one is this one over here, which gives me the whole yearly annual data. Okay, so 60 from today is like 2 months ago, 2 months from now. 30 from today is a month from now, and then finally a year from today. I think we can also have like, actually let's just leave it like that. So actually it's only like 2 months away, so I don't actually have the other one, so I'm not sure what I plotted over there. I'll have a look later to see what I'm doing. All right, so once you've done that, we've got the times are set up. Okay, now we can go to the database and collect our data between these time zones and figure out what's happening. All right, so I'm going to undo that. I'm gonna show you the code. I've written the code ahead of time. As you can see, the graph is already plotted, and I'm gonna be taking you through the code bit by bit. It will be easier for me to do it that way than type the code in front of you. That was going to take a little bit too long. All right, so let's start over there. All right, so there's a couple of things we're going to be plotting. The values are obviously this month's, the x-axis, what's going to go in here. All right, so I'm going to determine what's going to go in here. It's going to be an array. Okay, so if you look at the plot there, you'll see that for the values, these categories, okay, you have to give an array of the different months or the different values that go into the x-axis. So in this case it's Feb, March, so this is the array that's going to go in there. All right. It starts as an empty one, and I'll build it as I get the data, and I'll put the month for the data that must go in there as well. Okay. And then the next thing is this data invoices. All right. The data invoices is going to be for me what I'm going to put in here in the total. The total invoices, I'm just calling it data invoices. You can call it anything you want, but this is the values that's gonna go in here. It's an array as well because it's gonna have values for this. It's gonna have for this sort of data point, for that data point, for that data point. So as I determine the data points there, I'm gonna create the values to match those data points for the plot like this here. All right, the overdue will be the overdue invoices, and this will be the paid invoices. Okay, so I'll create 3 different series of data, and then to match the data points that go into the values over there. All right, so let's work on the first series. Okay, so I'm going to undo that so that you can see what's happening there. All right, so for the first series, right, I'm going to start with the invoices. Okay, I'm going to go to the database and I'm going to collect all the invoices. So everything, what this whole line of code is basically a database query that's querying invoices between that time range and counting to give me the total number, because I want to plot how many those invoices are. So I need a count of the invoice. I need the number. Okay. So what I'm gonna let me show you this query. This query is I'm querying based on the profile, because obviously this is now a multi-tenant app. So because it's a multi-tenant app, I need to only count the invoices for this profile that is in right now. So my profile, whoever's logged in. So if somebody else logs in, it will count the invoices on their profile and another person. So we need to always, when you're building a multi-tenant application, is to include the profile. I know when I showed this code to you, because we built this app right here on this channel, and the app that I built on this channel didn't have the multi-tenant part. Okay, I had to build that in order to be able to make this available to everybody to use, so that it can remember who it is that created the invoices. So the code that I'm going through now is slightly different from the code that you'd find on GitHub that I've already shared from the previous tutorials, but the differences are very minor. They're just okay. I've added the multi-tenant capability. I've changed the templates a little bit because I need to have a better looking template if I'm gonna sort of open this out to the market for everybody to use. Okay, and I'm for free, by the way. You can create invoices for free, right, on this website. So I had to make the website look a little bit better. So the changes are mainly cosmetic, and then here and there. But to be honest, the majority of the core of the code, the majority of the core of the database, for example, the what you call the models is the same. The models, the signals, the forms, a lot of that is exactly the same. The difference is just cosmetics here and there. Okay, so we need the profile to be able to know which profile that is. So, and then we're going to filter based on date created. If you look at our models over here, right, and let's search for invoice, for example, you'll see that invoices at the bottom here, we've got the date created. And this date created is also set automatically when somebody creates an invoice. It just sort of, it's like a timestamp. It puts a timestamp to that, and it's also time zone away. Because the last date created over here, when they save this for the first time, if date created is none, it just adds a date created. And the next time you save, date created is not none, so it doesn't keep adding it again. So basically what we're doing here is that we put a timestamp when the person creates that invoice for the first time. So over here, it means that when we're doing the query now, we can query on the date created. So this will query the date that invoice was added to the system. And what I would like to mention here right now is that the quality of your analytics and the ability for you to query information from the database is going to be directly proportional and very dependent on how you defined the database in the first place. Okay, so a lot of people build their models, and at the end they want to start showing analytics and showing graphs, and then they don't have the variables to query the database, and it's like difficult to do that. For example, then they can't query paid overdue because they didn't include that in the data in the model in the first place. So when you're doing model design in Django, it's very, very important that you think, even if you're building this for a client, that you ask the right questions when you're building a model. What kind of information do you want to see in your database? What kind of reporting do you want? What kind of analytics do you want? Because the kind of analytics, the kind of reporting, and the kind of, model that they want to see, at the end, will determine how you build your model. So we as designers might only think, oh no, for an invoice I only need a title, a number, and an amount. That's enough. And to be honest, yes, you can build an invoice like that, and that's what's shown on the invoice, right? And then you have to now query the invoice, and you want to know, I want to know the paid invoices, I want to know the outstanding invoices, and you can't because you didn't include that in your model. You want to know, how long the invoices have been in the system, and you can't because you didn't build into the model, when the invoice was created, and things like that. So you need to think about these things when you're building your model, how you're going to do the analytics, even though the analytics only come at the end. Typically, by the time I build this kind of things, it's after I have already completed the app, and then I start building the reporting. But I need to have the foundation already done. So I'm able to now query based on the date created, because I had included that in my model. I had anticipated that I might want to be able to, to group invoices based on how long they've been in the system. Okay. Then in this specific case, I'm going to use the range. So what, this is like a double underscore, by the way, if you're copying this code as you go along. This is a double underscore. So basically it's like you use the date field, whatever the date field you want to the range over, and then you do a double underscore range. Okay, so this is in the Django documentation. So if you go to Django database query, all right, you can just sort of like read through this documentation, and some of the things I'm doing here is directly from the documentation. So here you're going to give it a range from the start to the end date of where that query is going to be. So it's going to give you and return the values between that range. So in my specific case, the first data point is going to be for the whole year. Okay, so history 3 is like basically 365 days ago, so last year to today. Okay, and I'm going to start from there to today. Okay, so it's going to query now from last year today until today. Okay, so it's going to query 365 days worth of data. So this is the information that's shown over here. This is what's here. This is the year to date. Or in other words, 365 days ago up to today, the kind of the number of invoices on the system. So this is what that does, and then it counts it. And then the next one, I want to know the overdue invoices. All right, I want to know within this period, the same date range. Okay, the same date range. I want to know how many invoices are actually overdue. So you basically would copy and paste the same query, except you add an additional requirement. I need to only the status to be overdue. So again, you back to your model. You'll see over here we've got status, and status can be current, email sent, overdue, or paid. So you only want the invoices that are overdue to come back. All right, so this is what this is doing over here. It's querying only the overdue invoices, and then this one is querying only the paid invoices. By the way, you can add as many things to query on based on the information you have on your model. So you could even say, I only want client is equals to this, and you can give it a client ID. All right, so you could say I only want invoices for this client, or I only want, so basically everything you have in your model you can use to query when you're fetching data from the database. But I'm only interested in invoices between a certain time period and then a certain status. So that's what we are querying over there, because we want to be able to say, okay, this is the total over here. There's no status on the first number. All right. And on the second one, the status should be paid. And on the third one, the status should be overdue. All right. So that's what we're doing here. And then at the end, we added count because we are counting a number. We wanted to return a number. Okay. Then after that, the first x-axis value that must go in there is actually the year. So I want to know which year it is. So obviously, if you're going to be using this app 2 years from now, it will always calculate the current year. Okay, so the current year is actually today times year. So today, remember, is this datetime object. So if you take a datetime object and just say .year, it will give you the current year. But it will give you the year, like in this case, is 2021. That's the year today. So what I'm showing over here is I want the year 2021. Okay, so it appends, to these values, what do you call it? Array or list. year 2021, whatever the year that you're in, all right? Because when I plot this, I want to be able to say this is the year and then plot these values accordingly. 1, 2, 3 is the 1, 2, 3 values we are plotting there, okay? Then the next one is obviously the data invoices, all right? The data invoices is data invoices array or list. I'm just going to append invoices one. Invoices one, remember, is the total. Okay, data overdue, which is data overdue over there. I'm going to append overdue one, which is the overdue invoices. And then data paid over there, I'm going to append paid one, which is the paid invoice. Okay, so now this array has got one item each. It has the total, the overdue, and the paid invoices for the whole year, and it shows that this is year 2021. So this is what's happening here. Year 2021 is showing the total, the paid, and the overdue invoices. So that's what we're doing over there. Now, currently, this array has only this list has one item in it. Okay, so you want to be able to get the other 4 items. All right, so let's make this visible. So the next data point, okay, is going to be history 2 month. Okay, and history 2 month is this month, which is 60 days ago. All right, and then we are going to query between history 3 and history 2. Okay, so we are going to we are sort of like searching between history and history 2. And remember, history 3 is 365 days ago. So the first data point, this one, all right, it's from 365 days ago to 60 days ago. Okay, so it's going from history 3 to history 2. So from 365 days ago to 60 days ago, it's querying all the invoices there. All right, and then the next one is doing the exact same thing, and it's going from history 2 to history 1, and from history 2 to history 1 is now from 60 days ago to 30 days ago. All right, so this is the month ago, which is September. So this is from 60 days ago to 30 days ago. So it's this and that, all right? And then the next one is the current month. It's querying from 30 days ago to right now, okay? So it's this one over there, all right? So the fourth data point is querying from history 1 to today, and history 1 is from 30 days ago to today. So the last 30 days. So this is querying the last 30 days, the last 60 days, and then between 365 days to 60 days, and then this is everything in total, okay? Should be. If I've made a mistake, guys, maths, it wasn't my strong point, but you guys, you can let me know in the comments, in the description below, and let me know what your thoughts are the way I've structured this. And then the only thing I'm doing over here now is basically just sending these values to the front or to the data point. So now this array should have 4 items, 4 items, 4 items, because now we've appended it as we go along, and now we can send it into the context, okay? And then we're sending the context into the front end, okay? So which means we now have these variables available in the context, this available in the context, this available in the context, okay? And then I'm going to like just remove this space so that you can see what's going on, okay? So now we can save all of that, okay? Now we need to use this in the context, okay? The data invoices, the overdue, and the paid, we've got to use in the context, and that's what we're going to do next. So inside of our dashboard, over here, we go to the bottom. You'll see that we need to put in here the script for that, like this copy and paste this script here. All right, but I'm not going to use this exactly the way it is. I've already typed it in so that I don't waste your time on camera. So I'm going to just copy it from the bottom there. All right, so this is basically exactly the same thing as what's here. Okay, it's not exactly the same. It's a couple of changes, but I mean, it's pretty much the same. And you can just copy it from the website. You'll come up with the same result, okay? So basically, you start by, okay, here it's starting with the options, but over there it's starting with document query selector, invoice chart. Okay, so invoice chart is going to be the ID of the div where we're going to show this chart. Okay, that's all you need. You need to use a div inside of your HTML with that ID number, and then it will display that chart in there. Once you've done that, you pick the height of the chart. The height of the chart is basically how long this chart is. And obviously, depending on what you're plotting, you might want this to be longer. But, basically 350 is usually the standard. And it's just, it takes just about the right amount of space on your screen without the chart like sort of filling everything or being too small. So 350 is a good rule of thumb, but it's up to you what you want to work with. And the title, this is the title of the chart. So I've said invoice totals. So this is the title that's going to go over there. And then these other ones, which is basically the width and all of that, you can keep them as sort of the defaults that come with this. I think they're sufficient. All right. And after that, what's important here is the colors. Okay, you don't have to define the colors because it will pick the standard colors of Apex. Okay, but if you want to define the colors, for example, you've got a theme on your website that you want to work with the similar colors, you can define the colors here, and you want to define them in a hash format inside of your quote marks like this. All right, so these are the colors I want. Okay, so it's basically like these colors that you're gonna see there, sort of the green, the orange, and the blue, and they're sort of like your nice bootstrap colors. This is success, this is danger, warning, and this is the basic one, the blue color, the blue bootstrap color. So those are the colors I want to work with there. And then after that, this is the most important part, the series. Okay, so the series is what you see there, where it shows you the series there. Okay, this series. All right, so over here, this series, you have the name and you have the data. Okay, like here, you have the name and you have the data. All right, so the name is going to be the name of the series, total invoices. So this name is what goes there, the total invoices, 9. All right, so you're going to give it a name. Okay, this so that people know what that is in the paid and the overdue. So I want to show the total, the paid, and the overdue, and then for the data. Now, how you put the data here? This is the trick, and this is where I think a lot of people stumble. This is why I stumbled the first time when I tried to do this. Is the ability to pull data in from the back end, displaying it on the front end in a way that the front end understands it. So basically, we've done a lot of pulling data into the HTML, and you just use the double quote, the double, sort of like brackets like this, all right? And data that's from the back end can come to the front end easily and display. This is like how we are displaying these numbers and everything. It's coming from their server and getting displayed on the HTML like that, okay? But now we want to now display it inside of a JavaScript. All right, so you're gonna do something slightly different. If you just did it like this, it comes differently and it doesn't work. Okay, so what you need to do is that you just need to use the template filter of safe. All right, so in this specific case, we want to show the data invoices, and this data invoices is an array. If you look back here, data invoices, this data invoices is an array. It's that array over there. All right, and you've been adding stuff into that array, so it should be an array of 4 numbers right now. Okay, so basically you show it like that inside of the double sort of braces, but you need to use the filter, the template filter safe. Okay, and you do the same for data paid, for data overdue. If you don't put the safe, it doesn't work. It comes through as something different and it gives an error, and I struggled with this for a while until I learned, I figured it out, and thank you very much. You're welcome. This is how you do it on JavaScript. If you want to pull a variable, you can. I mean, what another thing you could also do, like for example, and this is an extra tip I'm giving you now, and you'll thank me later, right? Let's say you wanted to do conditional coloring, okay? And I've had to do that in a case where, let's say you're showing like a range, and you want to, like, if it's too low, you want it to be red. If it's in the middle, you want it to be orange. If it's too high, you want it to be like red, and you want it to display that dynamically based on the data that's coming from the back end, right? So you would need the colors to change. So if you see over here, we have hard-coded the colors, okay? What you could do is that instead of hard-coding the colors, you could also send the colors as variables from the database. So let's say you wanted to show a different color based on the value here. Inside of your views, you could say, I don't know, context. I'm just giving you an example here. There's no use case in this graph, but for your future reference, if you come across such a situation, and let's say you wanted to say series 1 color, okay? Right, and then you could define it over here inside of, whatever exclamation marks, and let's say whatever the color is. Okay, I don't know what it's going to be. This is just an example, all right? This is an example color, okay? So this color, you could say, let's say the variable that it's coloring is, let's say, context series 1, and let's say this is a number, okay? This is a number, I don't know, 3, whatever. and you wanted to show the color differently based on the number. If the number was too low, you wanted to give it a different color. If it's in the middle between 3 and 5, for example, you want it to be orange, and if it was higher, you wanted it to be red, for example. What you would do is that you would define the different colors here, right? And then you would say color 1. Let's say red, all right? And then you would define it here and you would say red is equals to whatever red is, okay? You would say green is equals to whatever green is, all right? And then you would say orange is equals to whatever orange is, all right? These are colors, right? And then you would then put the color, whatever the color that you want to display there, right? But you want to display these colors based on something else, based on the series, okay? So based on these numbers, okay? So you want to know which color to send based on the number. So this number is 3, right? So you would say, all right? You would say if, all right? If, let's give this the value, right? So let's say value is equals to 5. You would say if value is less than, let's say if it was less than 4, okay, you want the color to be green, right? And if this value is greater, equals to 4, right, and value is less than, I don't know, let's say 7, for example, right? You would want this to be orange, right? Else, obviously, maybe you can put elif again. Value is greater than or equals to, greater or equals to 7, all right? You would want that color to be green, to be red, right? So what this would do is that it would send to the front end a different color based on what you want to do. You want to do conditional formatting or conditional coloring of your graph or whatever. And this is useful. I've used this in situations where I'm showing a gauge, okay? Let's say I'm showing a gauge. Like, for example, if you go to your Apexcharts, you can have like a gauge like this, all right? Let's find this. Not this one, not radar charts. What kind of polar area charts? I don't know. There's charts that you might want to, like a gauge. I can't find it now, right? Radar. Let's see there. Okay, so this is not the one, all right? But you do find those charts which are like a gauge chart, and then you want to sort of like, based on the gauge, if it's too low, you want to show a different color. Based, if it's too high, you want to show a different color. So you would do it like that, and you would say this is a value, and if it's too low, show green. If it's in the middle, show orange. And then in the front end over here, instead of hard coding the color, all right, you would then say whatever the color is. Okay, you would say what is the variable you've put the color into, series 1 color, for example. Then you would put whatever the variable is in here. You would put it inside of your whatever. So you put it there. You remember to use save. All right. But because this is supposed to be a string, even though you've defined it as a string in here, you have to still put it inside of a string like that. All right. Or else it doesn't work. All right. So I'm going to just undo this and put back the color that I had in there hard coded. This is just a by the way, of what we've been doing here today. In case you need it in the future, you can always do it like that, okay? Now, let's go back to our HTML. So these are the colors. In this case, they're hard-coded. I don't need them to be conditional coloring. And then basically the last thing is, some, some borders. You can define that. But what's important here is the invoices, okay, on the y-axis. So this is what's going to be displayed here. All right, so you can choose to display whatever it is that's important to you. And then the tooltip, okay, the tooltip is what appears when someone is clicking on this like that. This is a tooltip, is the one that's showing here 2021. It's showing here August, it's showing here September, right? So on the tooltip, you can decide, you can format what's going to be shown in there. So here I've said whatever the value is plus invoices. So what it will do is that it will say total invoices is 2 invoices, okay? So 2 is that value, invoices. So that's the conditioning for the tooltip. Okay. So basically, this is all that you need, all right? So you can like then save this. Okay, so I'm gonna just do save all right? And then you can save that. And then once you've saved that, obviously you need to push your changes, all right? And then once you've pushed your changes, you just basically run your application like that, all right? And you go into, this is the application. I'm just gonna refresh it. And you'll see, obviously, nothing changes because I'd already written the code ahead of time. And that's what you do, okay? Now, one other thing that's important here, oh, I forgot to show you over there, is the, on the HTML, how to display it. Remember, I told you just need a div, all right? You just need a, you just need a div with an ID that matches the ID of the chart, okay? So this is the ID over here, invoice chart, all right? And then you just put it inside of a div like that, okay? So in this specific case, I've put it inside of a card and a row and a column 12, okay? So I've added a row in here and I've put a column 12, and inside of the column 12, I've put a card, and then I've put that div inside of the card. And then all you need is to give it an ID, and that ID must match the ID of the chart, okay? So if you looked at the documentation then, you'll see here, there's always an ID, like in this specific case, the ID is chart. So whatever that ID is, you can rename this ID, and that's the ID that you put inside of the div. That's the ID that you put inside of the div, okay? What I wanted to mention now is that you might have somebody that's using this app for the first time, okay? So somebody's coming in here for the first time and they don't have any invoices yet, okay? So they haven't loaded any invoices. You don't want them to see an empty chart, okay? So typically what I normally do is that I will have a check, all right? So I know this is the total for all the 3 years. Actually, I do have an invoice total somewhere here that has already been calculated. That's being used somewhere in the, invoice order by. So these are all your invoices, okay? So what I'll do, what I would do is that I would create a variable that I would call check invoices, all right? And I would say check invoices is, let me make sure this variable hasn't been used before. Okay, it's the only one. Then I would just filter everything based on the profile, okay? I probably want to do the date range as well, okay? History, the first date range, okay, this one. Okay, so from date created from today to, history 3, which is a year ago. So if somebody maybe had done invoices a long time ago, but then they haven't been using this in a year, so there's no data within the year. So I'm going to say profile that, and then date created the whole year. So this is just checking if this is collecting all the invoices for the year, all right, without counting them, all right. And then I would put that into the context, okay, like that. All right. So then inside of your dashboard, all right, the only thing I would do is that I need to check if there's invoices in there. All right. So I put a conditional check in here and I say if this invoice's length, so if there's the length is greater than 0, what this does is that it just double checks that there is some invoices in here. Okay, the invoice's length is greater than 0. And then I'll do the same for this and the table, okay? Because even the table, I don't want to show if there's nothing in there, all right? So where the end of the table is over here, okay? And then I will say and if. Okay, so what this will do is that it will show nothing. And if you wanted to have like an image that says, please enter invoices, you've got nothing to show, which is what we do for these other pages. You could also do something like that. But in our case, it's not important because this will show. And even though there'll be 0 showing there, it's not so bad because it's got images. There's stuff happening. It's not the same as just showing an empty plot, okay? So then what this will do is that it will check that the invoice length is, there's nothing there. I mean, it will check that it will only display, this is a conditional display, it will only display this if the invoice length is greater than 0, which is what you have over here. Okay, and the invoice length is all the invoices for the last year from history 3, okay, which is 365 days ago to today. All right, so you can then save this, and let's just push this, add to git, add to commit, push my changes. And once I've pushed the changes over there, you'll see it's already restarted. Okay, let's refresh this. Hope everything and nothing is broken. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to log out of this account, and I'm going to sign up with a new account where there would be like absolutely no invoices in here. Okay, so I'm going to call myself Tati. All right. Okay. I've read the policy. I'm going to sign up, and then I'm going to log in with my password. And you'll see now what I told you was that this person now has no invoices. I think it's okay to display this even if there's no invoices. This is showing you that you have no invoices, all right? You have no invoices, you have nothing happening there, and you can see there's no plot being shown. So this conditional formatting works. If there's no invoices in the last 90 days, there's absolutely nothing to show, okay? So if I then go to invoices, this is the other option where you can show something in its place. There was no invoices, so if there's no invoices in this case, we are displaying an image so that people don't see an empty, you don't want people to see like an empty thing, okay? You want them to see something. So let's quickly start by adding a client first, because I think that's important. Let's call Scholar Online our new client. Let's upload them an image, so something on the desktop. This one, all right. Let's give them an address, 45 Mandela Road, Gauteng. All right, and postal code 1234, phone number 092345678. Email address, let's give it a real email address. Okay, let's save changes. Good. We now have a client. Then we can go to invoices and add a new invoice. All right. All right. So the first thing is to add an invoice item. So let's, I don't know, website development. Okay. Create Word. Create 5-page WordPress website. All right. WordPress WW. Quantity just 1. The price 1,200 rands. The currency is that. Let's save changes. We've got an invoice item over there. Invoice name is our WordPress. The invoice due date, we're gonna pick it's due end of this month. It's current. Pay in to this account. A Ned Bank. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Branch code 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, awesome. And then we're gonna edit that, so that's saved. Then we're gonna select a client, Scholar Online, add that client. That's the client that's selected. Let's view our invoice document, see what it looks like. That's really good. Okay, I don't have my address, my information. I need to enter my address. I need to enter my settings. Okay, so I need to go to my profile over here, and I need to enter my profile so that it can display my address on the invoice. But that's not what I wanted to show. What I wanted to show you now is that on the dashboard, as you can see, this appears, okay? That wasn't there before, right? So before the first time, there was no, you couldn't see this because, like there was nothing to show. But now that I've added a new invoice, you can now see total for the year to date. I've got one invoice and it's in the month of October, and you can see it over here as well. And it's currently current and it's not overdue. So you don't see overdue, you don't see paid. And basically that's how you do analytics for your website. You can see over here it's updating now. It's showing the total to date. paid. Nothing is paid or overdue, so that's why that's 0. So, and I think this is amazing, guys. So feel free to try it out. If you're like a freelancer and you don't like want to pay for accounting software, maybe you just want to issue invoices to people, you can come use this platform. It's available for you to use for free. Okay, so thank you, guys. We'll see you again next week. I think during the week, this week, we're gonna do a competition for this because we want to launch it on Product Hunt. So I need your support, guys. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that giveaway on Wednesday. Okay, so see you guys next time.